Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Bev Smith. I'm the team leader for Team Blitzit, which is a consultant team in the northwest of Sydney. I know most of you probably don't recognise me. I've got longer hair than I normally do, and I think probably most of us are in that boat too. We're living in an interesting time, and you know, I think my solution I've been thinking about is that if we can get some joy and fun in our kitchen, using our Thermomix and producing and making beautiful food for our family, that's going to give us some degree of comfort and relax and calm. I keep this nearby. I've always had this, but it seems to be a little bit more relevant at the moment. Keep calm and Thermomix. So that's what we need to be doing. We're very fortunate to have one of these in our kitchen because it does make a big difference to what comes out of the kitchen and what we do within the kitchen. We have fun. Okay, so this class is stretching the food that we have in our home. It's all about looking at what we have and making up a meal with what we have in our cupboards or potentially in our fridge, without having to go out to the shops as often. So that's, Jeff, would you shut that door, please? My husband's putting in a laundry and there's a bit of noise. So, okay, it's shut now. Yeah, using what we have at home, being creative in the ingredients that we have already, swapping over a few things to create, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And that's what this class is about. And I'd like to thank Nadine Stewart and Mel Meeks. They're the two consultants that put this together, and they've given me a very short dish to do, which I'm going to do in just a minute. Just before I do, there's a couple of things I want to tell you. Just so it gets covered now, if anyone is thinking of a Thermomix by the end of the class or upgrading potentially, we have a beautiful offer in this month. We have our anniversary cookbook, which is one of the most amazing cookbooks I've ever seen Thermomix put out. It's full of awesome recipes. Some of them are on Cookbook, our platform. Some of them aren't yet. But this is a beautiful book that's just full of amazing dishes and history about Thermomix. It's just a classic, awesome book. That comes with the Thermomix. And the other thing is a thermoserver. If you've been around Thermomix for a while, you know that you actually really need one of these. It keeps food hot or cold for 2 hours. So the thermoserver and the book come with the Thermomix. Okay, so getting straight onto my dish. This dish goes back to when I first discovered the Thermomix in 2011, probably goes back further than that, but it's called Cada. You'll find it on Cookbook. Just put in C-A-D-A, Cada. It stands for coconut, apple, date, almond. So basically, I'm going to start the recipe and show you what this is all about. It's a fresh muesli, and it's a beautiful recipe to have first thing in the morning, and it's fast and fresh, so it's great. So the first ingredient, it says 40 grams of fresh coconut. Now, I like it with fresh coconut, but the last two fresh coconuts that I've bought, you don't know until you open them whether they're actually really fresh, and they weren't. You might have discovered that yourself. So unless they're in season, I tend to just use some desiccated coconut, or you can use shredded or flaked, whatever you want, whatever's in your cupboard. So traditionally, this recipe is a handful of those 4 ingredients. So I kind of do it that way. It says 40 grams, but I've put in a little bit more, and that's okay. Raw almonds, straight in. I've gone to 51. That's okay. Pitted dates. I like to use the medial dates. Make sure if your dates have pips, you get them out. You don't want those in this recipe. So you pit them, get the dates in. So they all go in one after another. And then finally, apple of your choice. I always like a green apple, but you could put a red apple. You core it. You don't peel it. The apple just goes straight in. So you can substitute anything in there. You can take the dates out and put apricots in, any sort of dried fruit. Take the almonds and put walnuts or cashews, whatever you'd like. So pretty much whatever's in your cupboard, those 4 ingredients can be substituted. Okay, pop the lid on, insert the measure cup, which I've done. Now I know that it's going on turbo because it just closed up the arms and it will do that. So it says turbo 2 to 3 times on for 1 second, which is already preset. I love turbo because you can have a look. No, it's still too bulky. I'm going to do it again. Yeah, you want to make this so that it's, you know, it's not too whole, but not too chopped either. So I've done it 2 seconds, and I think that that's going to be enough. When you're in turbo mode, to unlock your machine, you need to scroll across, because I'm doing it at that angle. Hang on a minute. Actually, no, my apologies. If you're in turbo manually, you need to scroll across and ungreen it. You'll see it's in a green circle. But when you're in a recipe, that's a different story. Okay, so here's my fresh muesli. Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to just quickly pop it into a bowl so you can see it. I have to say, a bit of a warning with this recipe. It's a little bit addictive. It's so delicious that you just want to make this up often and have it. I mean, it doesn't have to be breakfast. It can be having it while you're watching something in the nighttime on TV. You just quickly make up some cater and enjoy it. It's lovely with some fresh yogurt that you make in your Thermomix as well. So it's crunchy. One thing about the chopping function of the Thermomix, the blade is so efficient that it chops through vegetables and fruit without bruising the cells. So therefore you don't get oxidization. So this is going to stay good in your fridge for a couple of days. But it's unlikely because you want to eat it. It's beautiful. Now the dob of yogurt on top, I don't have any at the moment, but has everyone got one of these, by the way? This is our beautiful rare, I call it rare because it's different, white thermoserver. It's smaller than this one, you'll see, and it fits inside the Varoma. It has a purpose, and that's for making yogurt over a long period of time. So these white thermoservers are precious. They're not rare, really, but you can get one through hosting. So, you know, I encourage people to think about what they get out of the Thermomix and how they could benefit other people, especially in COVID during this time. We can benefit others by letting them know that the Thermomix exists. So this could be free gift to you for sharing the love of the Thermomix. So talk to your consultant about that. It's just one of the host rewards, but it's a really good one. If you haven't got one, that's how you get one. Okay, that's me. I'm going to pass you on now to Nadine. So I'm going to take off my spotlight. And you've done that for me, Mel? Or is it Mel next?
Me next, Nadine.
Okay, let me pop you on spotlight. Great. Thank you.
Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to do oat milk. I don't know if you've been a bit like me and you've run out of milk in the fridge and you didn't want to go to the shops or to the corner store and pick some up. I come by this oat milk recipe and it's been a bit of a savior for me because I haven't had to go to the shops. I've pre-prepped the oats. So I soaked these for an hour just in some water, and then I've just drained and rinsed them off. So I'm going to move down so you can see my Thermomix screen. So we've just pulled up the oat milk recipe. So this is the last step that I did. And we're now going to add 700 grams of filtered water into the bowl. Little bit over, that's okay. And we're going to add the drained oats. The dates are optional. I haven't put them in, I leave them out. And then we turn the speed selector to speed 9 and we blend it for a minute. I recommend using rolled oats because they're thicker and cooked oats are a bit thinner, so they might be a bit softer, but if you don't have any other oats, that's what I'd recommend.
We'll just wait till the minute is up because we couldn't hear that very clearly. Thanks.
So I did see a comment in the chat about quick oats. The quick oats are a thinner oat than your rolled oat. So I haven't tried it, but if you don't have any other oats available, it should work okay. Here you can see that's what you get. I've got my simmering basket here with a nut bag inside, and we're just going to drain it through that. I've put it into a jug because then it's easier to pour out of. Just pour it through there. And you can see it drains out through the bottom. So you can let that sit for a while and then it will all come through. And then you can just use your spatula to press it down to take all the excess liquid out of it. And what you can do here is you can put it in the fridge and keep it for up to 5 days. I find that it's a more creamier milk than almond milk, and it's not as strong in flavour. So I find it's quite good for a coffee. So what I was going to show you next is just bring up your scales, weigh in some oat milk. And you see that it's coming out fairly quickly.
It looks very creamy.
Yeah, it is very creamy. And I'm just going to heat this up for a few minutes. And I've got the luxury of a pod machine. I've put a pot of coffee in here and I'll add some of the milk to it. And then you've got a coffee with oat milk. So if you're looking to reduce the dairy in your diet, this is a good milk, one that I would recommend. And yeah, it does thicken up in the fridge, I've found. And yeah, there you go. You can pour it into your coffee. And you've got a nice, delicious coffee.
What a great idea.
So yeah, so don't race to the shops and get milk. Just make your own oat milk. Okay, so next we're going to do the vegetarian sausage rolls. Again, this is a really handy freezer item. Make these on the weekend, pop them in the freezer, and then you've got them for the week ahead. So we'll start cooking. Preheat the oven. Line a baking tray with baking paper. We're going to chop an onion. I also like to add carrot into this. So I've got a carrot here. And how good is it to chop onion and have no tears?
And how good is it not to have to wash your bowl between dishes?
Yes, very good. So there you go. We've got the carrot and the onion chopped up. We're going to add some oregano and some walnuts. Now we're going to add some rolled oats, but because I've got this oat pulp here, I actually tried this the other day. Rather than putting the rolled oats in, I used the 90 grams of the oat pulp, so I had no waste. So we'll just see if I can do this neatly. Pour this in.
It's great how you can use things into a recipe rather than throwing them out. It's great.
Now we're going to chop this for 3 seconds. Scrape down the sides. There you can see we've got our mixture so far. Add in our 3 eggs. Add in 150 grams of feta. There we go, this is our feta. And some tamari. So it's a tablespoon. You can just bring up the scales. 1 tablespoon is 20 grams, so you can just weigh it in. So tamari is a wheat-free version of soy sauce. It originates from Japan and it has more flavor, less salt than your soy sauce as well. And 50 grams of breadcrumbs. So I don't know about you, but I like to make my own and I don't like the crust of my bread. So I've just blitzed this morning in the Thermomix on speed 7 for 10 seconds. And I've got my own breadcrumbs. Okay, now we're going to mix that for 20 seconds on speed 5. So we've cut our pastry sheet into half. Again, if you don't have puff pastry in your freezer, there is a recipe on Cookie Do that you can make your own puff pastry. And what we will do with this mixture is just place it onto the long edge. It's a bit to show you here. You get the idea. And then you can just roll it up. Remove this blue sheet. Roll it up like so, and then you've got your sausage roll ready to go. And then you can just repeat that for the remaining ones. And you can cut them into portions, and then you can cook them, cut into 4 equal portions, brush them with milk, sprinkle them with some sesame seeds, and repeat the process, bake them for 20 minutes. And then what I do is then I freeze them and pop them in the freezer to have for later on. So hopefully that's given you some ideas for things that you can put in your freezer, and you know exactly what's in them. Obviously you can add more vegetables and other ingredients. There is also meat versions of the sausage rolls as well. I'm just going to pour this out and do it later on. I'm just going to give my bowl a quick rinse, ready to show you the next recipe. So Mel, I don't know.
Yeah, do you want me to just add a little bit about I want to highly promote these because they are absolutely delicious. And you wouldn't really even know there was no meat in them when you're eating them. You just wonder what might be in the ones that you buy. But they're easy. You can have them in the oven within maybe 10 minutes of getting started. They're very quick to make. You can make short ones, long ones. They're just absolutely delicious. So make sure you have a go if you haven't made them. I saw Di's been making them. And I'm sure there's probably others here that have tried these, but they're absolutely delish. Okay, I butted in. What's next?
So the next dish we're going to make is a recipe that's on the recipe community. So it's not in Cookie Do, and it's called I Can't Believe It's Not Chocolate. So this is a good snack dish that you can have. I don't know about you, but it's usually 3 o'clock and I'm a bit peckish. And this is a dish I'd recommend to have at 3 o'clock when you're a bit peckish.
I like the name of it. I'm looking forward to seeing what's in it that's not chocolate.
Yeah, I've just printed off the recipe from the recipe community and I'm going to follow that. So I've pre-lined a tray with baking paper. It's here. And I have my cashews here. We've got 75 grams of cashews. And we have got 125 grams of almonds. And we're going to chop them for 8 seconds on speed 7. That sounds like they're done. 8 seconds on speed 7. And we're going to set them aside. You can see we've got some nice milled nuts.
It's nice to know that you can use manual recipes. You're not restricted with the Thermomix, so you can find recipes that aren't guided and just work through them manually.
This is quite a lot. Okay. Next, we're going to, if you don't have desiccated coconut, you can now chop your coconut, but I do have desiccated, so I'm going to skip that step, and we're going to now melt the coconut oil. So we've got 80 grams of coconut oil. We're going to melt that at 37 degrees for 1 minute. Speed 1.5. After this is done, we're going to add some dates, some coconut, some cocoa, and some nuts, and process that for a further 20 seconds. So the recipe calls for medjool dates, but if you don't have medjool dates, you can just use normal pitted dates, soak them in some boiling water for a little bit to soften them up, and you'll have a nice soft date, just the same. Okay, that looks done. I'm running out of room here. So we'll add in our dates, our coconut, and our cocoa, and process that for 20 seconds on speed 5. I just realized I left out the dates of the nuts. We'll add them in.
The Thermomix is very forgiving.
It was like I said, the nuts, and they're sitting right there. So we'll just add them in.
Most things can be corrected, which is great.
Okay, now we've got our mixture done. There you can see, and we can just press it into our tray. We've got a nice chocolatey slice. How about that? This is so easy to press. You just press it with a spatula. And put it in the fridge to let it set for an hour or so, and our slice is done.
I think I'm going to make that straight after the class.
Yeah, there you go. Give it a bit of a push with your fingers. That aids it in a little bit more. And it's done.
Thanks, Nadine. That's awesome.
That's okay.
That looks
Over to you,
good.
Mel.
Thanks, Nadine. That looks gorgeous. They're a couple of my favourite dishes. Those vegetarian sausage rolls, honestly, give them to the kids. They're none the wiser, packed full of goodness, and there's no meat actually in them. And that little, I can't believe it's not chocolate. If you haven't been following the chat, you can sneak bits out of the freezer and it's great. A really good, healthy chocolate snack when you need one. Now, I've got a fair bit to go this afternoon. So I'm going to do some meatballs and red pepper sauce and some pita bread to go with them. To start off with, I've made my bread dough about an hour ago, and it has been proving. But in winter, proving, I like to fill my thermo server just with boiling water and let my dough sit on top, and this is proving lovely and warm, and that is yeah, just absolutely perfect for a cold winter's day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just roll it out, and then it needs to sit and rise again for another 15 minutes. So just tip my dough out. This is an awesome dough. It's not too sticky. It's really, really easy to handle. I really like it. I made it yesterday, and the recipe calls for like baker's flour, but I did it with plain flour and it was absolutely fine because it's a flatbread. It doesn't really need that same gluten content of the baker's flour, whichever you've got more of, so plain or baker's. So basically you just pop it out, roll it into a bit of a log. I have put a little bit of flour on my Thermomix mat just to stop it from sticking. Then when you are cutting on this mat, because it's a silicone mat, you don't want to use a sharp knife, so just using my spatula. I'm just going to cut it into 8 portions just using my spatula, like so. Give them a little bit of a roll. If you need a little bit of extra flour, you can just flour your hands a little bit, give them a roll out. Trusty rolling pin, and I'm just going to roll them into little ovals, about the size of your hand. Bit more flour on my rolling pin. You can squish it down with your hand first. They don't need to be perfect, just a little round like so. So what I'm actually going to do is just roll these. The recipe does say to roll them into balls like this, let them sit for 15 minutes before rolling them out. And I don't have time to do that. I did them yesterday without that second prove, and they're fine. So to skip time, that's what we're going to do today, is just roll them out. Now, pita bread, great for when you haven't got bread, don't want to run to the store and grab some. You've got kids at home homeschooling and they need a lunch. They're kind of cool because you cut them in half and you can, little pizza pockets, or you can fill them with whatever you like. And yesterday I whipped up a really awesome hummus with my Thermomix. Super, super easy, tasty, pita bread and hummus. Happy days. So we've rolled them all out like so. And I'm just going to let them now sit for 15 minutes while I carry on with my meatballs, and then we'll put them in the oven. So just going to relocate these. Maybe I'll flip. So currently I've got the oven on and I've got a tray in there heating up, because when you do the pita bread, you put them on a hot tray and then they puff up. It only takes about 4 minutes or so. So now we've got them out of the way, I'm going to drag my Thermomix over and we're going to get onto our meatballs. So this one is my absolute favourite meatball recipe. It is on cookie dough. I've actually planned it for my weekly planner, so I can go into my week. There it is, meatballs in red pepper sauce. So to start off, we have 150 grams of onions. When you take the lid off, you just got to tear your scales back to 0. 2 rashers of bacon. If you don't have bacon, I made these a little while ago. I didn't have bacon. My husband decided to cook bacon and burgers for breakfast and used up all the bacon, which he did today, but I hid my bacon, so he couldn't find it. You can use ham, or you can make it out. It's up to you. So we have some bacon. 40 grams of day-old bread, crust removed. I don't remove the crust, I think it's a waste. So I just chuck in my bread. Got a couple of slices here. If you want to bulk it up a little bit more, you can put in a little bit more. This is 40 grams is probably 1.5 pieces of bread. I'm not going to waste the other half. I'm just going to chuck both in. 2 sprigs of fresh parsley. Parsley's coming back into season. Mine's all starting to sprout in the veggie garden. 100% recommend growing your own beautiful fresh veggies. Much cheaper, healthier for you, and you've got them on hand.
Mel,
Yep.
you dropped a little bit of bread on the other side of your Thermomix.
Thanks. Then we have Parmesan. So I buy a block of Parmesan, chop it all up into tiny little cubes, and then I just blend it all up, and that's my week's worth of Parmesan. So you don't need to buy your already pre-grated Parmesan. You can do that yourself. So I'm just going to weigh in 30 grams. Now, if you are lactose free or you don't want Parmesan or don't have it, you can also just keep in your cupboard some savoury yeast flakes. Just got them from the health food shop. So when I have friends over, you can make like the fake stretchy cheese with the savoury yeast flakes to give that beautiful cheesy flavour. The Parmesan, we're going to insert it. And then just follow the dial around to the preset. Scraping down. So my veggie garden, sometimes it just goes a little bit berserk, and in those days, I chop it up and I hang it upside down and dry it. So then in times when I don't have fresh herbs on hand, I've got my dried in a cupboard that I can use. So it's a really good alternative to have. So that's just all those bits chopped up so far. Now, if you don't have bread, I read on the recipe community the other day, someone's got a risotto recipe. You can add wheat bix in there instead of bread. You could even do gluten-free wheat bix as well if you wanted to have a go at that. It's asking for 500 grams of beef. I buy a huge pack of beef from Costco, and then I just divide it all up and pre-package it into little 500 gram portions and freeze it flat so that it thaws really quickly. Put my beef in there. And then we have our dried Italian herbs, and we have paprika, salt, pepper. So all the seasoning goes in. Now I have enlisted the help of my little mini meeks here this afternoon. She's going to make all the meatballs for me, which is great. She just uses an ice cream scoop and is going to scoop all them into the Roma for me. I need an extra pair of hands in the kitchen. I'm just going to give this a little bit of a stir, and I'm going to put it back on because the meat hasn't incorporated enough that I would like. So give it a little bit of a stir. The good thing is with this, you can always just go back a step and redo it if it's not to your liking. So I'll just go forward and just see if it wants me to ask me to do it again. No, it doesn't. So I'm going to go back one step, put the measuring cup in. I'm just going to give it one more. It's not quite mixing properly. You can just shove your spatula through the top. So the spatula has a collar built on there that stops it from touching the blades, and it's designed to do that in quite a few recipes. So don't put any other spatulas in. You've got to make sure it's just the Thermomix one with that little collar, so it will just keep up off the blades. Now I've got a beautiful mince mixture, and that's mixed much better. So I'm just going to put that into a plastic bowl. I don't want my daughter to put the metal ice cream scoop straight into the bowl of the Thermomix. It'll scratch the sides, and I don't really want her anywhere near the blade. So I'm just going to decant my meat, and she is going to, she's an awesome meatballer. She's going to put that into both layers of my varoma. So I put a light spray of oil, not the one from the can, because that has properties in it that makes plastic even more sticky. Just a regular sprayer. Okay, so basically the idea is you just get your meat, pull it onto the side of your container, and then just flop it onto the tray. Here you go, Miss Meeks. Thank you, darling. Can you take it over there and start filling up the aroma? They can see you. Do a good job. They're all watching. So it then says to wash out your bowl. I'm just going to swap just for a bit of quick and easy. So we have the new bowl. And it's going to ask for olive oil. So now we're going to get onto the sauce. So the meatball is going to cook in the varoma above the red pepper sauce below. Yep, keep going. Yep, yep, fill it up both sides, top and bottom. Then we have more brown onion. This one uses 2 onions. It's a bit of a high onion recipe, which is good. Garlic. We have sultanas. So if you don't have sultanas, you can use a little bit of sugar, or you can leave it out. I really like that it's got sultanas in, a bit of natural sweetness. Ripe tomatoes, 100 grams of ripe tomatoes. This is the very last of my tomato crop. So they're my own little homegrown tomatoes. If you don't have any homegrown, you can use a big tomato, or you can use tin tomato. It's forgiving. Insert measuring cup. Okay, so now we have chicken stock paste and we have Worcestershire. I don't know if I've said that properly, but this Worcestershire sauce and my homemade chicken stock. It's great to make your own stock paste in the Thermomix. I just keep mine in the freezer because I have more space in the freezer and they don't freeze because of the salt content. Just going to grab another spatula here and scrape down my lid. That's my Worcestershire. Now it says 250 grams of roasted red pepper strips. Now you can buy a jar of red pepper strips. I quite often will get the big one from Costco and then I'll just divide it up into little bags and put it in the freezer because it usually says, you know, use within 2 weeks of opening. I find that the smaller jar you go, the more expensive it is. So always go for like the big one and then just chuck it in the freezer. It's great. Today I thought I would give it a go of actually charring my own capsicum. So I just grabbed a capsicum, turned the stove on, let it sit on top of the stove and just wait till it went black and bubbly. Then I just popped it in the thermo server with the lid on and just let it sweat and let it cool down for about an hour. Then it's the tedious task of peeling most of the skin off. Not all of it, there's nooks and crannies there I didn't quite get to, but that's my own char grilled capsicum. Now, because I put that one in whole and it's not the strips as the recipe asks for, what I'm actually going to do is go back a step back to the chopping. And I'm just going to get it to chop it for me. Enough. You can also exit the recipe. So if you press the home button, you can bookmark your recipe, and then you can go into your manual screen and you can chop that way as well. Then you just press the little green bookmark icon to come back into the recipe. So there's a couple of different ways that you can chop outside of the actual guided recipe. All over the bottom too. Do it all up. Good girl, they look great. Yeah, it looks perfect. Zara wants to show you a perfect little meatball. She's very proud. Look, it's just rolled a little bit there, but perfect little meatball. So she's putting all of those through the varoma. I find if they actually are involved in the process, they're likely to eat it more. It's very handy. Then we have 100 grams of water. Measuring cup. Okay, so now we're up to the cooking stage. So I'm actually going to transport this jug over to, I borrowed my next door neighbour's Thermomix, so I can continue to show you things here with this one while this one cooks in the background. Okay, so I will be a second. Bev has something to talk to you about how you can get a Thermomix on your bench.
Okay. Can you spotlight me, Nadine? I seem to have lost myself on the screen somewhere. Yeah, so great work, Nadine and Mel and little mini Meeks. Mel is my niece, and so it's all in the family, this Thermomix adventure. So I guess I just wanted to offer that a Thermomix can be earned if you want to either upgrade or you want to get yourself a TM6. One of our payment options, and it's one of the most popular, is to earn a Thermomix. So yeah, you can come on as a consultant. We often call it earn and learn because, you know, being a consultant is a really awesome learning journey of how to use your Thermomix, you know, to its max. So, you know, if you're interested in the earn and learn option, you might come on just for a short period of time, just for a goal to earn a Thermomix. And basically it's just sharing the love with others. It's a very simple process. And we also have at the moment a half price business kit. So the whole stepping into this is only $62.50. And in your kit, you get some great things. You get a thermoserver, you get the mat that Mel was just using, and a whole lot of other, a bag to carry a Thermomix, which is itself worth $120. So there's a lot of great things in the kit, but the greatest part of becoming a consultant is learning, but also sharing the Thermomix with others and being rewarded for that. Okay, Mel, are we ready?
All right, I am back. Okay, so now what I'm going to jump into, while the sauce is going to heat up, we're going to put the aroma on, and then it's going to steam the meatballs. The benefit of steaming the meatballs, it retains all the moisture, so you get beautiful moist meatballs, and they're not dried out, as you sometimes can get if you put them in the oven. So that's why I really like this one. But while that is all happening in the background, I thought I might jump on and show a really, really quick dessert. So I don't know if you've ever had a mug cake before. So it's a cake basically cooked in a mug. There are a lot on Cookie-Doo, but there are not a lot of them in English. So I'm going to show you some really quick, easy steps how to access recipes in Cookie-Doo from other languages and how to translate them from English into English. So on your screens, I'm just going to quit this recipe here. Now I have mug cake extra dark on my screen here, and it is written in looks like Italian. So when you open up Google Chrome, so if you open up Google Chrome and you just put in cookiedoo.com.au, you can then search for your recipes, and then you can, so this one here is my extra dark mug cake that I found. On your phone, it's a little bit different to on the iPad, but there's these 3 little dots at the top of the screen on my iPad, and it brings up the option for you to translate the recipe. So now my recipe has gone from, I think it was Italian, into English. So everything on my screen will still be in Italian, but I can just follow along the recipe in my iPad, learn Italian as I go, and I know what it's talking about. So all the grams are still the same. So if you're 140 of which one's 140, oh, yeah, okay. And so you can follow along. You got me on that one? So on your phone, it's a little bit different. Those 3 little dots are actually going to be at the bottom of the screen. Oh, you'll get it when you open it up. Okay, so those 3 little dots there from Chrome on your phone, they will be down the bottom there. Bring up the same menu option to then carry on. So first thing here, we have 60 grams. You can sometimes guess what it's talking about because it kind of looks like chocolate. So we have just dark chocolate chips. Pop those in. The pictures are there, which is great, which just means put your lid on. That was a little bit loud. Okay. It just said to transfer. So basically, all those little chopped chips have just turned into, let's get a different bowl. To nice grated chocolate. Okay, so now it's actually asking for 000 or 00 flour. So 00 flour is the flour that Italians use mostly in pasta and things like this. It's quite a lighter flour, but you can just use plain if you don't have 00 flour. I did plain, it was fine. It's asking for 80 grams of, it looks like cacao. If you don't have cocoa or cacao or raw cacao, any of those, you can actually open up the French recipe, which just melts the chocolate and the butter together first, which is really nice. So then you don't need your powdered cocoa or cacao. 140 grams. I don't know what that is, so I'm going to refer to my iPad. It says 140 grams of sugar. Now, for me personally, that's a bit too much sugar. I did it last night at 80, and it was still quite rich. So I think I might even go down to 60 for this one. But you can choose your level of sweetness. That's up to you. For sugar, you can always just buy raw sugar and just mill it to caster sugar to icing sugar. You don't need a whole heap of different varieties of sugar. It says 2 over eggs. And I've also got my grapeseed oil in there. In the recipe, it says corn oil, but you just want to use a nice light tasting oil. So a bit of sunflower or grapeseed, something like that is perfect. Just not a strong olive. 120 grams of de latte. I know what latte is. We have our milk. $40 grams of, who knows what that is? Oh, that's the oil that I've already put in. Now we're going to pop the lid on. and it's going to mix it for 30 seconds.
What size cups are those, Mel, that you're going to fill?
Oh, so this is just a normal, nice big mug. I don't know how to
250
describe
ml?
how big it is.
Okay.
It's a nice big mug. The bigger the better, because with any good mug cake, a good amount of ice cream on top is gonna balance out that sweetness. So if you have nice big ones, I'd go for the bigger. And if you don't have bigger, then you can always just add make a few more of them if you want. So your next instruction here, when it's actually translated on the iPad, it says add yeast. What it's talking about is adding your rising agent. So it's not necessarily yeast that it's talking about. It's actually just talking about baking powder. So it's just 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And it's asking for the chocolate. I have to keep just checking the iPad. Not fluent in Italian. Next, put the lid on. Never have too many spatulas when you're working with the Thermomix. Done with the meatballs. What a good, look at these. There we go. Whole tray full of beautiful meatballs.
What a champion.
Yeah, she's done well. So then we have, it says to pour into 4 mugs. Now it says for a guide for capacity, 200 to 250. I would go on the bigger side. So it's a beautiful thick chocolate, and it says to divide into 4. So I'm going to use the blades as a guide to, because there's 4 blades, to work out how much to put in each mug. So when this asks you to cook in a 700-watt microwave. Our microwave is 1200 watt. So hubby and I last night tried to mathematically work out how much I need to drop the percentage down of my microwave to get it equal to about 700 watts. So it was a bit of a challenge. We had all sorts of mathematical equations going around the place to try and work it out. But we finally got it, and we worked out that we need to drop the microwave down to about 60% power for it to be roughly equal to about a 700-watt microwave. So I'll let you work out what your microwave wattage is and what would be appropriate for you. But the best advice I can give is just to keep your eyes on it. It can bubble up and overflow. You do need to make sure you cook them all together at the same time, okay? So then these will just go into the microwave and they will cook for me, as they cook perfectly in about 4 minutes. So I realise we're right on time. It was a bit of a push to try and get this in. Are we okay to go a little bit over? If we have 4 minutes. I'm going to put some pitas in the oven so you can see them. We good with that? If you need to run, you can run.
4 minutes that's okay, Mel. You're doing a great job. Lots of food.
I could show my milk. I've put it in this shaker bottle with the little shaker in it.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the fridge, and then it separates a little, but you can shake it again.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there's my oat milk. So
Definitely trying that one too. Thank you.
There's the slice, nicely pressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all my sausage rolls ready for the oven.
Wow, they're big ones.
So, yeah. So there's plenty.
Do you cut them down, Nadine, before they go in? Do you cut them into sausage roll sizes? Or do you do it at the end?
Well, you can do, but
You do
I like
the all one? You like a big one?
Yeah, I do. I used to cut them, and then I figured, no, why cut them when I can have a whole one? So yeah.
That's
So
great. Yum.
yeah.
Dinner sorted or lunch.
Yeah, that's right.
Yum. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
That's okay.
Okay. We'll go back to Mel. Okay, Mel, back on.
All right. So what I did quickly there was the sauce had heated up, and I put the varoma on the top of the sauce. Now the meatballs are going to steam. So I'm sorry, it's a little bit out of time, that you probably won't see the end product, but it looks just like the picture. Beautiful meatballs soaked in a beautiful red pepper sauce. Now, the pita bread is the suggested serving. If you want to, you can serve it on pasta. You can do zoodles, you can do mashed potato. There's lots of various adaptations that you can do with what you've got. But that's my favorite meatball recipe. So I currently have my pitas in the oven, and they're all just puffing up. Let me just see if they are ready for me to show you. I'll just grab.
And maybe later, Mel, when the meal is finished, you can take a couple of photos, and I'll include them in the email I send out after the class.
Okay, they could probably go in for another couple minutes, but they're all starting to puff up into nice little pillows. Okay, so that's
You're done?
almost. Do you have anything else to go over while we?
What are we waiting for at this point? Just wondering.
Let me check my other thermos.
Okay. What I thought, once the meal is finished, Mel, that you can take a photo of your finished meal, and I can pop it in the email as well.
Yeah, great idea. Great idea. I have 6 minutes on the thermi, and I have 2 minutes on the microwave. So the cakes are currently cooking. So they're all just puffing up, my little mug cakes. Yeah, probably push to see the meatballs, but I think you pretty much get the idea of that. So if you don't like the red peppers, there's also a tomato meatball recipe. You just got to make sure that if you don't have the blade cover, that you use the non-blade cover recipe. If you do have the blade cover, then the meatball actually sits on top of the blade cover and cooks in the tomato sauce that way. So there's a couple varying recipes that you can do according to what you like. I prefer the varoma method rather than there's some of them you can fry them off in the frying pan, or you cook them in the frying pan, but they're never quite round. They're kind of like a little pyramid. So the OCD in me really loves the ice cream scoop and little round meatballs. Okay,
thanks, Mel. Are you happy if we just do a picture, or do you, because you've still got a bit more time, haven't you?
Let me see.
I know that we try to keep to time if we can. Oh, your puddings. Let's have a look at them.
There you go. Is one of the mug cakes all puffed up?
Oh, wow.
So there was only filled to about here. Don't worry about that chocolate there. And my oven's beeping at me. Here we go. They are super puffy. Nice hot pita bread.
Beautiful.
And they're recommended to let these cool sort of together with the tea towel on top. So it kind of helps them to stay soft and supple. I sometimes put them in my oval thermo server with the tea towel over the top. But if you're going to put them in the thermo server, don't put the lid on because then they just sweat and they get a bit wet. So they do need to breathe, but you can keep them warm and just snug. So there we have my beautiful pita bread. So that's about it for me. And I'll post the photos of dinner on the email that we send out to you. Thanks everyone for coming along. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mel. That's great. Okay, we'll just about wind up in about half a minute. So I just wanted to thank Nadine and Mel for putting this class together and presenting such beautiful dishes and offering us some great tips on what we can do at home by just looking in our cupboard, in our fridge, and creating. I love the milk. I've never tried oat milk, but I'm going to. And definitely that slice, that's going to happen today. And meatballs, great recipes, fantastic. All right, thanks everyone for coming along. We will do a follow-up email over the next day, probably tomorrow. And we'll just keep an eye on the link tree. You should all have a link tree. If you haven't got one, pop it in the chat now and we can make sure you get the link tree, because when you open that, you can see what's coming up. And there's classes. We've got so many classes coming through. And what we want is for you to get the most out of your Thermomix. You've invested in a beautiful machine, and we want you to be able to feel confident and use it every day, multiple times a day, and, you know, create some beautiful food and enjoy the kitchen. You know, with everything else going on, get in the kitchen and cook, and it's going to just lift your spirit and make you feel great and enjoy some really beautiful food. All right, thank you everyone, and look forward to seeing you again on our next class. Thanks.
Thanks, Bev.
Okay, I'll just finish recording.